Hi everyone, this is Chandra with Intuitive Crafting. Welcome back. Happy to see you. Took a week off, just being in front of the camera, just to readjust to, the time change. So I'm back and I'm doing well. Hope you are too. So what I want to talk to you about this week is, I feel like I'm giving you a lot of, creativity pep talks, but um, I guess that's okay too. So I want to talk to you about multitasking, something I am tremendously guilty of all the time. But there's some things about multitasking that can work for you, and a few things that can work against you too. Now, when I'm talking about multitasking, I'm talking about in terms of the projects that I work on. So I have, um, let's say, projects that I work on that are like you could classify them as innovation. I'm thinking of new things to offer. Um, they've come directly out of my imagination, out of my head. I don't have a pattern that I work with. I'm just putting them together. Like I started working on a couple of crochet dresses that are so far so good. They're beautiful. And then I have projects that are related to orders. I'm either, fulfilling orders or replenishing my inventory, or I have finalized a project or an idea that I really like that I think will sell, and I'm putting that in place as well. So I always have a lot of things going on. I've gotten to a point where I've actually, I'm not very good at sketching. Now I have several siblings. I have 5 older brothers and sisters, and about half of them are excellent, sketch artists. Um, they are very, very good at what they do. That's never been my forte. I'm more someone who has to work with my hands and, have something more or less that's 3D, three-dimensional that I work with. So, but what I've started doing is trying to sketch out my ideas, and that has kind of slowed the stemmed the tide of all these things that I feel like I have to, put on the hooks, to start making so that I can imagine it coming to completion. So um, there's just always a lot going on over here, and if you're a beginner, that may not be the case, or you may just be imagining all these things that you can do that you're not ready to quite complete due to skill level or time. And you can sketch those things out if you're good at that. Even if you're not, if you know how to draw a stick figure, you can at least put your idea down, and you can refer back to it later, and at least you'll know what you intended. So let's talk about the pros and cons of multitasking. You can multitask in several areas of your life and feel like you're getting nowhere, or you can multitask and feel like I'm doing a little bit here, a little bit there, and everything's going to be finished really soon, and you can feel good about it. I think it depends on what the project is, the kind of person you are, and what your focus is. So let's talk a little bit about the pros of um, multitasking. So I would say the first pro is that you can start new projects sooner than later. You know, um, putting yourself out there, just getting started with something that you want to finish down the line is a good thing. You get it started, you get a feel for whether it's going to work or not. And then once you get it going, you can set it aside, return to something older that you've been working on that requires your attention and that will be finished soon. So one of the pros of multitasking is that you can start a project, get a feel for it, and then you can set it aside to continue working on and finish at a later date. So The second, and this is certainly true for me more than for any other reason that I multitask, is that variety is the spice of creativity. Meaning, I get bored easily, especially if I'm working on something that I've created or have completed before and I'm duplicating something. I get bored, and it's never good for me to get bored. So if I start feeling that boring feeling creep in, I start something new. And, that can help in a number of areas. That can reignite my interest in the project that I was working on beforehand. That can just, give me a break from the mundane. So I really enjoy working on a variety of projects at once. It keeps me going in a forward moving direction. I know that eventually I'll get something finished. A third positive thing about multitasking is new ways of doing things can emerge. You can be working on something and realize that, hey, I'm taking the long way around. I can do it much faster this way. Or I am creating a more beautiful and interesting effect by doing something a different way. So one of the pros of multitasking is definitely that you can apply something you learned from one project to improve another project. It's definitely one of my favorite things about multitasking. So those are the good things about multitasking with your knitting and crochet projects, which can apply to just about any type of project that you're working on. Now, we have to look at the cons, unfortunately, because there are cons to multitasking. Now, one of the biggest cons of multitasking is that it can take much longer to complete a project than you would probably prefer, because you're going back and forth with all these different things. You're working on knitting a scarf over here, you're working on crocheting a hat over there. The two have nothing to do with each other, and you might get, really caught up in working on one thing when you really should be working on another. So you always have to remember your focus and your priorities. What really needs to be finished now versus later. Typically, something that you're making for someone else should be finished sooner than later. Anything with a deadline, obviously, apparently, needs to be finished sooner than later. So just keep that in mind. If you can, kind of tie yourself down to working on one project and getting that one project finished, you're better off in the long run. But if you can't, make sure you prioritize so that you are not creating more problems for yourself than you need to. It's easy to lose focus. It's very, very easy to lose focus when you try to multitask. You can start out saying, okay, I want to make a scarf to go with this hat. You might want to make a sweater to go with, a scarf. Anything. You might be trying to create a set, but if you are over here working with a different type of yarn, a whole different unrelated project, it's easy to lose focus of what your initial intention was. And sometimes that's okay if you are just in a creative phase and you just want to see where things are taking you. However, as I've said before, if you are trying to meet a deadline, create a collection, or finish a project, this is where multitasking can get you in trouble. So if you are prone to multitasking like me, always keep your priorities dead center in your face Remind yourself every day, even if you have to write it down or put it on your calendar. Ultimately, as far as cons go, multitasking can be a form of procrastination. And sometimes procrastination isn't bad. Procrastination can help you see the bigger picture better when you don't see it. Sometimes it can keep you from making very costly mistakes. But often procrastination is just what it is, not taking care of business. So ask yourself as you move along with your projects, am I procrastinating because I am just putting off the inevitable? I'm afraid of what the finished project is going to look like. It may be disappointing. It may not be what I expect it to be. Or am I procrastinating because I know that this project can be more than I imagined and I want to take my time? So think about that. Procrastination can be a good thing, but a lot of times it isn't. So just examine your motives and always try to keep a forward motion in anything you do. But typically, if you want to master knitting and crocheting and completing beautiful projects, you want to keep yourself on task, and if you have a time limit, on time. So I just want to leave you with that. I want to thank you for your time, and I will see you soon.